They say blood is thicker than water. It's the oldest lie we tell ourselves to survive our families. We hold on to it like a life raft, ignoring the fact that sometimes the people sharing your blood are the ones actively drilling holes in the boat. I thought I had escaped the shipwreck. I thought I was safe on shore. Until last Tuesday, 2:14 p.m. My phone rang. It displayed a name I didn't recognize immediately, Sarah Jenkins. I almost sent it to voicemail. I was in the middle of reviewing a complex audit, my desk covered in spreadsheets, my third coffee gone cold. But some instinct made me answer. "This is Maya," I said, clipped professional. There was a hesitation on the other end, a shuffling of papers. "Hi, Maya. This is Sarah Jenkins. I'm Chloe's wedding planner." My posture softened instantly. Chloe, my baby sister, the one bright spot in the murky history of my family. Her wedding to Mark was in 5 days. I had my dress hanging in the closet, a deep emerald silk that Chloe had picked out because she said it matched my eyes when I was actually happy. I had my toast written, rewritten, and memorized. It was a speech about how Chloe was the softest heart in a hard world, and how Mark better protect it with his life. "Oh, hi, Sarah," I said, my voice lighter. "Is everything okay? Is Chloe having a last-minute floral crisis? Tell her the hydrangeas will be fine." Sarah didn't laugh. "Maya," she began, and her professional veneer cracked. I heard a tremor in her voice that sent a spike of pure adrenaline straight into my stomach. "Maya, this is the hardest call I've ever had to make in 10 years of this business." I tried to push back. I promise you, I tried. The room went very quiet. The ticking clock seemed louder. "What are you talking about, Sarah? Is the wedding off?" "No," she whispered. "The wedding is on. But, Maya, I was instructed 30 minutes ago to remove your name from the guest list, and the seating chart, and security." My brain couldn't process the words. It was like she was speaking a foreign language. I don't understand. "Remove me? Did Chloe?" "It wasn't Chloe," Sarah interrupted quickly. "Your mother made the call. She authorized the changes. She said your family has canceled your invite." I sat there, holding a phone that suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 5 days before my little sister's wedding. The sister I used to hide under the bed with when our parents were screaming downstairs. The sister whose tears I wiped away for 2 decades. My family canceled my invite. And that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Because what I didn't know in that moment, sitting in my cold office, was that this wasn't just about family drama. This wasn't just my mother being her usual narcissistic self. This was a transaction, and I was the cost of doing business. To understand why that phone call felt like a physical amputation, you need to understand the dynamic. In the theater of my family life, my parents were the directors, writers, and starring actors. My sister Chloe was the beloved ingenue, beautiful, pliable, desperate to please. And me? I was the stagehand who questioned the script, the difficult one, the reality check they didn't want to cash. I left home at 18 and never really looked back. I built a career in forensic accounting. I deal in facts, in black and white, in uncovering what people desperately try to hide in the numbers. My parents, on the other hand, deal in appearances. They own a boutique investment firm that has always looked shinier from the outside than the inside. They live leveraged to the hilt, buying luxury cars to park in the driveway of a house that's triple mortgaged, all to convince the world they are somebody. 𝐀𝐞 stayed behind. She absorbed their anxieties. She became their emotional support animal. When she met Mark, a sweet guy from a genuinely wealthy, old money family, my parents looked at him like he was a winning lottery ticket. Finally, their golden child was securing the golden future. For the last year, I've played nice. For 𝐀𝐞. I attended the engagement party where my mother introduced me to Mark's parents as Maya, our independent daughter, with a tone that implied felon. I sat through dress fittings where my mother criticized 𝐀𝐞's body until I stepped in and told the seamstress to kick everyone else out. I was the buffer. I was the shield. And now, 5 days out, the shield was being discarded. After hanging up with Sarah, who sounded genuinely sick about what she'd had to do, I called 𝐀𝐞, straight to voicemail. I texted her, 𝐀𝐞, call me. Please. What is going on? Read receipt. No reply. That hurt more than the planner's call. That silence was my sister choosing survival over me. I knew exactly where she was. Probably sitting on her childhood bed, phone face down, while our mother stood over her, lecturing her on why this was for the best. I waited an hour. The anger started to burn off the shock. I wasn't going to let them erase me without a fight. I dialed my mother. She answered on the second ring, her voice sickly sweet, the voice she uses when she's performing. Maya, darling, I assume you've spoken to the help? The help, I repeated, my voice shaking with restrained rage. You mean the woman you forced to fire your own daughter from her sister's wedding? Oh, don't be dramatic, Maya. It doesn't suit you. We just realized it wasn't going to work. What isn't going to work, Mother? My presence, my existence. The aesthetic, darling, she sighed, as if explaining quantum physics to a toddler. Look, you and I both know you bring a certain heaviness to events. You sulk. You judge. Mark's family is very refined. We just can't have any friction on 𝐀𝐞's big day. You understand, don't you? It's for 𝐀𝐞. That was the dagger. It's for 𝐀𝐞. The phrase they had used to justify every manipulation of her life for 25 years. Does 𝐀𝐞 know? I asked. 𝐀𝐞 agrees that we need a peaceful day. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Send a nice gift. Stay in the city. It's better for everyone. Click. She hung up on me, like I was a telemarketer. I sat in my apartment that night, the emerald dress hanging on the closet door like a ghost. I cried. Of course I cried. I cried for the little girl I used to be, desperately trying to be good enough for them. I cried for 𝐀𝐞, trapped in their web. But around 3 a.m., the tears stopped. My training kicked in. I'm a forensic accountant. When things don't add up, I don't get sad. I get curious. My mother's excuse was flimsy. Aesthetic? Heaviness? They hated me, yes, but they also loved showing off a complete, successful family portrait. Uninviting me 5 days before the wedding would cause gossip. It would raise eyebrows among Mark's refined relatives. It was a tactical error, and my parents, social climbers that they were, didn't make tactical errors unless they were forced to. Something was wrong. The numbers didn't balance. Why now? Why 5 days out? I needed to find the missing variable. The next morning, Wednesday, 3 days before the wedding, I called in sick to work. I had a different kind of investigation to run. I started with the wedding planner, Sarah. I sent her an email from my personal account. Subject, discretion assured, Sarah. I'm not angry with you. I know how my mother operates. But I need to know the truth, not the aesthetic excuse. Was there anything else said? Anything at all that didn't make sense? She replied 20 minutes later. She was risking her professional reputation, but I think her conscience was eating her alive. Maya. I shouldn't be telling you this. When your mother called to cancel your invite, she wasn't alone. She had me on speaker. I heard your father in the background. He was frantic. He kept saying, "If Archibald sees her, the deal is dead. We can't risk it. She'll figure it out. I don't know who Archibald is. I hope this helps. Please don't mention my name." Archibald. Archibald Sterling. Mark's father. The groom's father. The billionaire patriarch of the Sterling dynasty. My blood ran cold. If Archibald sees her, the deal is dead. What deal? It was a wedding, not a merger. Or was it? My parents' investment firm. I hadn't looked at their public filings in years. I made a point not to. But now I pulled everything I could find. It took me about 4 hours to cut through the smoke and mirrors. On the surface, they looked prosperous. But underneath, it was a house of cards. They were hemorrhaging money. Bad bets on volatile markets, coupled with their insane personal spending, had left them teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. They were months, maybe weeks, away from total ruin. And then I saw it. A press release from 2 days ago, buried in the financial news. Sterling Capital rumored to be considering acquisition of boutique firm Harrison Investments. Harrison, my parents' firm. Suddenly, the entire picture snapped into horrifying focus. This wasn't a wedding to them. This was a bailout. They were selling Chloe to the Sterlings to save their own skins. Mark's father, Archibald, was going to buy their failing company under the guise of merging families, injecting millions to cover their debt and let them continue their charade. But why did I have to be gone? She'll figure it out. I dug deeper into Archibald Sterling. He was old school, ruthless, but he prided himself on one thing: absolute financial transparency and integrity. He despised fraud. If he was buying my parents' firm, he would require due diligence. He would have his team look at the books. Unless my parents had already cooked them so well that a standard audit wouldn't catch it. But a forensic accountant, someone who knew their habits, their spending, their tells, someone who knew exactly where they hid their lies, me. If I was at that wedding, sitting at the head table, talking to Archibald Sterling, my father was terrified I would sense something. Or worse, that Archibald, knowing my profession, might ask my opinion on the industry. My parents weren't afraid of drama. They were afraid of prison. They were defrauding the groom's father, and they needed to eliminate the only person in the room smart enough to catch them. I sat back in my chair, the realization washing over me like ice water. They threw me away to protect a lie that was selling my sister into a marriage built on fraud. The sadness evaporated completely. What was left was something colder, harder, something that felt a lot like the revenge in this channel's name. They wanted me gone? Fine, I'd disappear. But I wasn't going to be the only thing vanishing this weekend. Thursday. 2 days before the wedding. I needed proof, irrefutable proof, the kind that stands up not just in a family argument, but in a court of law. I couldn't access their current internal books legally, but I knew my father. He was lazy with passwords. He used variations of the same things for decades, usually related to his golden years in college football. I'm not proud of what I did next. Let's just say I utilized some gray area techniques I'd learned over the years to gain access to a cloud storage drive my father used for personal backups. It took me 6 hours of guessing. When I finally got in, it was like opening Pandora's box. He hadn't just cooked the books, he'd incinerated them. There were 2 sets of ledgers for the last 3 years. The official ones they showed the IRS and potential investors like Archibald, and the real ones. The real ones showed massive siphoning of client funds to pay for their lifestyle. It was a classic Ponzi scheme structure, robbing Peter to pay Paul, all while they smiled for the cameras at charity galas. If Archibald Sterling signed that acquisition deal on Monday morning after the wedding, he wouldn't just be buying a failing company. He'd be buying massive legal liability. He'd be tied to a sinking ship of fraud. I downloaded everything, every PDF, every spreadsheet. I backed it up to 3 different secure servers. By Friday morning, the day before the wedding, I had compiled a 40-page dossier. It was a masterpiece of forensic accounting. It laid out the fraud clearly, concisely, with irrefutable evidence. I sat looking at the file on my screen. The cursor blinked. This was the nuclear option. If I released this, my parents were finished. Not just financially, socially, legally. They would likely go to federal prison. And Chloe? Chloe's wedding day would turn into a crime scene investigation. Her husband's family would look at her not as a new daughter, but as the offspring of con artists who tried to swindle them. I hesitated. I really did. I loved my sister. I didn't want to break her heart. But then I looked at that emerald dress again. I thought about Sarah, the wedding planner's shaking voice. I thought about my mother hanging up on me. It's for Chloe. No. Letting her marry into a family that was being actively defrauded by her parents wasn't for Chloe. It was setting her up for a lifetime of shame when the truth inevitably came out. The kindest thing I could do was burn it all down before the ink was dry on the marriage license. I wasn't going to crash the wedding. That's amateur hour. I was going to crash their reality. Saturday. The wedding day. I was in my apartment, wearing sweatpants, drinking cheap wine. 100 miles away, at a sprawling vineyard estate, 500 guests were taking their seats. I could picture it perfectly. Chloe looking ethereal, my parents preening in the front row, playing the role of the magnanimous hosts, desperately hoping the veneer held for just 6 more hours. I had the live stream up on my laptop, a private link Sarah had guiltily forwarded to me. I watched my sister walk down the aisle. She looked beautiful and terrifyingly fragile. She looked towards the front row, and I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes when she scanned the seats where I should have been. My mother quickly leaned in and whispered something to her, and Chloe nodded, pasting a smile back on her face. They said their vows. They kissed. The crowd cheered. It was done. Chloe was a Sterling. My parents had pulled it off. Now came the reception. The victory lap. At 7:30 p.m., the speeches began. My father took the microphone. He looked flush with success and expensive champagne. To my beautiful daughter Chloe and her new husband Mark, he boomed, raising his glass. And to the merging of 2 great families, the Sterlings and the Harrisons. May our futures be bright and prosperous together. He looked directly at Archibald Sterling at the head table, raising his glass higher. Archibald nodded politely, a man secure in his power. I looked at the clock on my laptop. 7:32 p.m. It was time. I wasn't there, but my presence was about to be felt. I had scheduled an email. Recipient archibald.sterling@sterlingcapital.com. Subject: urgent. Due diligence regarding Harrison acquisition privileged and confidential. Attached to that email was the 40-page dossier. I knew Archibald. He was a workaholic. He checked his primary email every hour, even at his son's wedding. His phone was sitting right next to his bread plate on the live stream. I watched the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. 7:35 p.m. My father was still rambling on about family values. On the screen, I saw Archibald's phone screen light up. He glanced down. He looked away, back to the speech. Then he looked back at the phone. He picked it up. He put on his reading glasses. The color drained from his face in real time. It was fascinating to watch. The polite smile vanished, replaced by the terrifying stoniness of a titan of industry who realizes someone has tried to pick his pocket. He began to scroll and scroll. My father finished his toast. Cheers! Everyone drank, except Archibald Sterling. Archibald slowly stood up. He didn't look at his son. He didn't look at the bride. He looked directly at my father, who was just taking his seat, beaming. Archibald walked over to my parents. The camera angle was wide, so I couldn't hear what was said. But I saw the body language. I saw Archibald lean down and whisper something into my father's ear. My father dropped his champagne flute. It shattered on the marble floor. The sound cut through the chatter on the live stream. Every head turned. Archibald straightened up, adjusted his suit jacket, and walked out of the reception hall without looking back. My mother grabbed my father's arm, her face a mask of terror. People were whispering. Mark looked confused, standing up, looking towards the exit his father had just used. Chloe looked lost. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Chloe. Just one word. Help. She knew. Deep down, she always knew they were rotten. She just didn't know the extent of the rot until the floor fell out from under her on her wedding day. I closed the laptop, I got dressed. Not in the emerald silk, but in jeans and a leather jacket. I got in my car and drove toward the vineyard. The party was over. The cleanup was about to begin. I found Chloe in the bridal suite 3 hours later. The wedding dress was crumpled in a corner. She was wearing one of Mark's oversized hoodies, shivering, her makeup streaked with tears. Mark was sitting next to her, holding her hand, looking shell-shocked. When I walked in, Chloe launched herself into my arms. She cried harder than I've ever heard anyone cry. The fallout was swift and brutal. Archibald Sterling didn't just cancel the acquisition deal on Monday morning. He handed my dossier to the SEC and the FBI. My parents were arrested on Tuesday. The image of my mother being led out of their heavily mortgaged mansion in handcuffs was front-page news. They are currently awaiting trial, facing decades in prison. The house of cards didn't just fall, it incinerated. Chloe and Mark, they're trying. Mark's family is furious, naturally. They feel betrayed, humiliated. But to Mark's credit, he told his father that he married Chloe, not her parents' debts, and he's standing by her. It's going to be a long, hard road for them, navigating the shame and the legal battles. But Chloe is finally free of our parents. It took a nuclear explosion to sever that cord, but it's severed. As for me, I went to see my parents in the county jail yesterday. My mother refused to see me, but my father came out behind the glass partition. He looked 10 years older, defeated. He picked up the phone. "Why, Maya?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Why did you do it? You ruined everything. We were so close." I looked at the man who had taught me that love was conditional, that truth was flexible, and that family was just another asset to be leveraged. "You're wrong," I said quietly into the receiver. "I didn't ruin everything. I just balanced the books." I hung up the phone and walked out into the sunlight. I don't know if blood is thicker than water, but I do know that sometimes you have to drain the swamp to save the people drowning in it, even if it means you're the one pulling the plug. If this story made your blood boil, if you understand the weight of betrayal and the cold satisfaction of justice served, then you're in the right place. This is Revenge Beyond Love. Subscribe and like this video. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you saw that empty seat at the head table? Until next time, watch your back.